How do you pursue financial independence as a modern man? Today in Five Friday Feedback, we're going to be talking all about it and recapping Monday's episode where we really decided, or maybe thought about, should we niche our podcast more to talk for men pursuing financial independence rather than everyone pursuing financial independence? So, Dominic, we've had a week to think about this, think about should we take the podcast in a different direction? What's your thoughts, man?
Well, as you know, finance is for everybody, and I love that aspect. I think for me, the best thing we can do is to create leaders, people who lead other people, right? If we can teach great finance and people go out and be like, "Hey, this is what I learned from the Five Guys. You should check them out. You should learn this too." That's what I want. That's what I want. I want the finance community to grow. I want people to be more financially responsible. That is the main goal always. But yeah, I thought we had a good podcast on Monday. I thought it was very interesting. I liked it. And what'd you think of it?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was great. I love those off the cuff ones where we just kind of pose a question at the beginning and see what happens.
Mhm.
And I definitely agree with you in that maybe we shouldn't focus on men, but we should focus on leaders. The reason that I think that it'd be better for us to focus on men is because we can only perceive of the way that that an average man might think about something when it comes to finance. I don't know how a woman might perceive something different than we might, because I know in general, and this again is everything's a balance and it's always on a sliding scale. But in general, men are typically far more risk taking than women are. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. But when we talk about investments, we talk about things like that for personal finance. It might hit different between a man and a woman just because a man might hear it and be like, oh, you're not even taking enough risk at all with that. Or a woman might be like, that's way too much risk. And I think if we think about it from a genetic standpoint, that's where normally I try to go back to it. What's the genetic reason for it? You think about child rearing. If a man has sex with a woman, he can just dip out and leave and not have to do anything with the kid, which makes men more okay with risk because you can just keep on doing it. You always have that out of like, I just leave. But women don't have that. If they get pregnant, that's 9 months with the baby minimum. And then after that, then you have to choose to leave. But that's 9 months of guaranteed. So you can see like there's this genetic difference that men and women will always have that may have a large shaping as to how we view risk. I'm not saying it creates the entire story, but I can definitely see if you make that story like, okay, I get it. I get why women might be more risk averse than men are. If you just look
Yeah.
at that one aspect. And of course, there's many more than that. But that's just genetically bound to us. Nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, women are probably a little bit smarter than us too. More I wouldn't say logic, but they definitely have a heightened sense of intelligence. Sometimes us guys were like, you know what? Send it. Just do it. Let's send it. Consequences, don't worry about them. We're going to figure it out. We'll figure it out when we get there. And we've all done that. I won't deny that. But yeah, we talked a lot about what it means to be a well-rounded man, right? What the purpose of a man is, what I don't want to say ideal man is, because ideal is different for everybody. Maybe for you, it's being super jacked, right? And obviously other stuff. And for other people, being jacked isn't important for being a man, What let's brush over that a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about what it means to be a well-rounded man in finance. A modern man's journey. I love that title. It's such a good title. What you got?
What does it mean to be a modern man in finance? What's it mean to be good with money as a modern man? I think the first thing, like you touched upon there, it's being a leader. And I think too many people think that in order to be a leader, I must be at the head of the pack. I must be the person who is directing from the front. And if you know anything about leadership, a la Jocko Willink, a leader knows the balance of when to lead from the front, but also when to lead from the rear. And you can do both things. And it's not in order to be a good leader, I must do this. But then there's also this time, it's an and. In order to be a good leader, I must do this, and I also must do this. I must lead from the front, and I must lead from the rear. But too many people, they focus on, I must lead from the front, but I must lead from the rear. And that but negates the first one. And makes it both things. Most people can't have two competing ideas in their head. Most people hate nuance. They want certainty. Just tell me yes or no. I want 0 or 1. What all of life is a gray area. Life is not binary code. We're not computers. We don't live in a perfect, 0, 0, 1 parallel. And same thing with being a man and female. We don't live in a perfect masculine world or a perfect feminine world. We live somewhere in the middle. And I can think of many times in history where the pendulum has swung too far. And oftentimes, yes, it is swung too far to the right. It is swung too far to the masculine, which would, I don't know, you call it the 1 or the 0, you can call it the black, you can call it white, you can call it left, right, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But it has swung too far to the man side for too long. And for the first time in modern history that I can remember, and I can think of parallels in history like the fall of the Roman Republic, that the pendulum is now swinging farther to the left. And now it's moving on to what people would generally call feminine values. And those feminine values, while wonderful, also come with their own pathologies if taken too far to the extreme. So in order to be a good man in finance today, you must be a leader. And a leader doesn't mean you always have to lead from the front. It also means you can lead from the back and should lead from the back. I think it also means that you have a goal, that you're responsible, that you know how much money is coming in, that you know how much money is going out, and that you're controlling what you can control. Too many people think that in order to be a good leader, in order to be good with finances, I must know everything and I must be omnipotent and I must be the best thing all around. Where in truth, it's you focus on you. You focus on being a better you because you don't know what situation is going to come. So rather than react to the situation, you're reacting to what can you do in reaction to the situation. You can't control the situation. You can't control the outcome. You can only control how you show up.
Absolutely. Control the controllables. That's where it starts. You can't control yourself, your mind, your body, the actions you take on a day-to-day basis, then can you really grow from that?
No, and I think that's one of the big issues which you see in like modern society is that there is a bunch of men who are there are a bunch of children who are cosplaying as men. There's a bunch of people who cosplay as the hero, who cosplay as what it is, a modern man. And in truth, they have no idea what the hell that means. What does it mean to be a man? And of course, when you think like, oh, what does it mean to be a man? Then a real man is machismo. He beats his wife and he makes a bunch of money and then he drives a fast car and he drinks a lot. He bangs a bunch of women. And you like, that's why I think so many people were so many young men saw Andrew Tate and were like, yes, that is what a man means. Like that is what I want. And just like you and I talked about on last podcast, if it wasn't for men like Jocko Willink, like Jordan Peterson, like Joe Rogan, like David Goggins, these men that have the propensity to be a warrior, to fight, to kill, but also know when to sheath their sword. There's so many podcasts that I've heard of Jocko, who I would call like a man's man. Like that dude's a gorilla of a human being. Like he's a man's man, but like he can cry and he can feel those sensitive feelings and he can do those things, and that doesn't make him any less of a man. And I think for me, like one of the things that's helped me a lot is being able to do jujitsu and like know that physically I can defend myself. And physically I can, if I got into a situation, I'll be okay. And that allows me to also be more emotional because I know that like in my brain, like at least I know I'm a man because I can kill you and I can also cry. And like if you want to say something about it, then we can go
And I'll
for it
kill you.
and I'll kill you and we'll know. And I think the same thing with like Jocko and Joe Rogan and even David Goggins. Like they know that they can be sensitive. They know that they can cry because at the end of the day, they know that they're the warrior. And if it was to come to a war, they can handle themselves. So they don't have to prove to anybody that they're a man because they know it. Where the average person right now, the average quote unquote man, who I would say is a child cosplaying as a man, is unaware if they can fight. They're unaware. They are not proven in battle. So they have to constantly assert dominance and hope that they are proven in battle and hope that it never actually comes to that. Because the hardest thing for a man, I think, is to lose that ability. There are two people in jiu-jitsu or intro jiu-jitsu. People that come into the gym and they go up against a 105-pound female and they get choked out. As a man, there are two people that do that. One man goes, that was fucking awesome. I can't believe that happened. How did you do that? And they get addicted to figuring it out. And there's another man who takes that and their ego gets involved and they say, no, that didn't happen. That's not done. This is stupid. That wouldn't have happened if it happened on the streets, blah, blah, blah. And they leave and they never come back.
Yeah.
And too many people today are playing as that second. They're playing as the victim and they're playing as the villain. It's only the hero that says, that was awesome. How did you do that? Teach me so that I can teach other people, so that I can know it for myself. That's a hero. That's the hero's journey. The grind, the hard part. There is no secret to being good at jiu-jitsu. There is no secret to being financially independent. There's no secret to money, to how to be a good man. It's putting in the work. And there are people that have gone on this journey before us that we can look to and ask, how did you get through it? And the idea, have I ever told you the idea of like the Bodhisattva and the Buddha?
Tell us again.
So the idea of the Buddha is the one who has transcended. They've seen the truth through the lies. They've woken up from the matrix, as it were, and they have left. They've achieved nirvana and they've left. So I would think of maybe a villain in the Matrix. But the Bodhisattva is someone who has seen through the truth, chosen to do other things, and rather than transcending, rather than leaving this world, they go back to pull more people out of the Matrix. This is Neo. This is Morpheus. This is the person that has escaped the Matrix. And then rather than just being like, I've escaped the Matrix, now I get to live, the people in the story of the Matrix, the people who just stay in that the little cocoon hiding, that would be the idea of the Buddha, the person who has left and not come back. The people that go onto the ships, go back into the Matrix to pull more people out, that's the Bodhisattva. That's the person that has seen the truth and goes back to try to help other people get through the forest without falling into the snake pit, without getting hurt, without going through all these things, because the person that has gone through that journey, they've seen all those things. They've gone through it all themselves. And now, rather than staying on that promised land, they go back through to try to guide more people to it. And I hope, Dominic, that we could become those people for men who want to achieve financial independence. Because I know that I live a pretty cool life. Every day for me is a weekend. There's nothing that I do that I don't want to do. I guess most people, they live 80% of their lives doing shit that they hate doing, so that 20% of the life they can do things that they want to do.
Yeah.
I've flipped it around in my life, and now I want to teach other people how to do that too.
Absolutely. As someone who doesn't dislike his job, but would much rather be doing something else. Yeah. That's my goal. That's the next goal I'm hunting for. And I'm not sure. I think not this week, but next week's win of the week, it'll be referenced to that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, no, I think to be a man in this modern world, it's not just to be the breadwinner. It was never really just about being the breadwinner. You have to be financially smart, wise, emotionally smart, a good protector. You have to be well-rounded. That's what's needed in today's society, and that's what's lacking in today's society. And I think part of the reason it's kind of lacking a little bit is my generation, we didn't really have like those huge like male role models, right? And I'm not talking about father figures. I'm talking about like movie stars, actors, stuff like that, right? Growing up, I never really saw any of that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it was there. But I never saw it. Only till I graduated high school and I started educating myself on how to be a better person and grow. And I remember the first book I read, I was like, dude, this is obsessed. It was Living with a Navy SEAL for 30 Days.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. The audiobook.
You should also read Living with a Monk. He lived with a monk too.
Yeah, is that one pretty good too?
Yes.
Okay, I want to try that one. Yeah. Yeah, that one's by Jesse Itzler. That's two great books. I haven't read the monk one, but I'm so fascinated with monks. Such a fascinating life. But yeah, no, that started my journey, right? So that was him and Jesse Itzler and David Goggins, great role models for me, right? They built me who I am today. As far as, the working out, the good work ethic, all that fun stuff. A lot of it I had already, but the most important thing was a willingness to learn and a willingness to change. But you can't be the victim of your story when wanting to change. You have to be the hero of your own story, because no one's coming to save you, and nobody cares about, not that they don't care about you, but everybody has their own problems, and to worry about your problems, it would be disingenuous. So what were you saying?
I was gonna say life doesn't care, or the world isn't fair and life doesn't care. Yeah. Life isn't fair and the world doesn't care because everyone's focused on their own thing. And to each one of us, we all have this amazing ability to think that we're the hero of this story, that we're the person that the world revolves around. And the reason that the world doesn't care is because everyone thinks that they're the hero of the story. They're the world. And every single individual, the world revolves around them. So when you tell me your problems, when you sit there and complain and bitch and moan and, oh, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, everyone goes, okay, that's nice, but woe is me too.
Yeah.
And both of those things are right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you were saying earlier, growing up, it's like if you're a kid of the 90s, early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't have a role model and you didn't have the hero that you were striving for. And nowadays, in modern times, we don't have heroes. In fact, the heroes are the victims.
Yeah.
It's the person who shouts down, oh, look at me, look how sad my life is. Now I'm a hero. And it's an easy way to co-opt people to get on your side.
100%.
Historically, if you wanted to be a hero, you had to put in hard work. In order to get people to follow you, to be a leader, you had to put in the hard work. You had to go into the jungle. You had to focus. You had to get better. But nowadays, in these modern times, you can just say, I'm a victim, follow me. I'm a victim. I know how sad life is. And I can do that right now. Like, I'm Mexican, I'm Hawaiian. Both of my peoples have been trod upon, downgrade, all those things. I can play victim right now. And I guarantee you, I could probably get a lot more people to follow me than if I say, I'm not a victim and I'm a hero and I'm going to keep on working for that. Because most people, they just want to play victim because it's an easier way. And people always default to it's easy. For an individual, I can't decide I can't choose what you're going to do. But for a group, it is a statistical certainty what they're going to do. They're always going to go for what's easier.
Mm-hmm.
And
what do we know about that?
It's going to lead you to having a fine life now, but your life in general will be hell.
And what's that quote? Easy life.
Easy choice, hard life. Hard choice, easy life.
Bingo.
Most people are going to make the easy choice because they want immediate gratification. Going to the gym and working out does not give you immediate gratification. Eating well does not give you immediate gratification. Going to jiu-jitsu does not give you immediate gratification. Saving money does not give you immediate gratification. Those are all hard choices, but they all set you up for a good life. Mm-hmm. What feels good? What feels good right now is to spend my money. What feels good now is to eat that donut. What feels good now is to sit on the couch. But in 20, 30 years, are you going to be happy with the decisions you're making right now, if that's you? Or in 20, 30 years, you're going to be happy if you're the person saving the money, you're the person working hard, you're the person going to the gym, person eating well. We need to learn to bridge this gap and realize to fall in love with the person that we want to become.
Absolutely. And I'm going to speak a little bit on what Chris was just saying right there. So what he said was true, but you can actually convince your mind elsewhere. You can convince your mind of the opposite. Like he said, so going to the gym, you're not going to get gratification immediately. Eating healthy, you're not going to get gratification. It's true when you start out. But once you fall in love with the process of improving and getting better, then like Chris and I, we worked out this week, right? After we worked out, dude, I was ecstatic, super pumped. It's like, he was showing me a different muscle group that I had never trained before, and immediately gratification. Same with like eating healthy, right? You might not enjoy it, but you learn how to be a better cook and it's going towards a more positive future. Same with your finances, right? I know if I apply for this promotion, I might get it. I can have a better future down the line. I can put my kids in a better place.
I think you're exactly right. And I think in stories. I've always been able to like look at people and like I see your story, and I think you're exactly right. And what you're doing is you're attaching a new story to it. If I work out right now, I don't feel better by working out. Like going to the gym, it's hard. It's a lot of work. Going to jiu-jitsu, it's hard. Saving money, it's hard. But what I'm connecting myself to is I'm connecting myself to a story. The story of it's going to feel good tomorrow. And the reason I know the story is true is because in the past I have done it every single time, and the story has led me to where I am now. It's all of life is a story. And I use the word story. You might use the word narrative. You can use whatever words you want. I like story because when someone is complaining to me and telling me, oh, woe is me, all this stuff, I just say, you're telling yourself a story. Does that story empower you or disempower you? Dominic, do you know the difference between hope and anxiety? Hopefulness and anxiety?
Tell me.
The outcome of the story that you tell yourself. Anxiety and hopefulness are both projections into the future as to what you think is going to happen. The only difference between you feeling anxious or you feeling hopeful is the outcome of the story you are telling yourself. Because in truth, no one knows what the future holds. This is what I think about all day. I meditated on that earlier this week, and I came to that conclusion. I was like, holy shit, I need to talk about that on the podcast.
That's a banger. Oh my goodness, what a gem.
And you can
Wow.
choose. So if you're feeling anxious, you can also choose to tell yourself a different story with a different outcome and be hopeful.
That's deep. That's so true. I gotta start meditating more. I need those prolific thoughts like you. Wow. Yeah, no, I hope the audience understands the significance of that hope and anxiety are very similar in what they do, but their emotion is tied to the outcome of what you're hoping or feeling anxious about.
Yep. And think about so many people nowadays when it comes to men trying to become financially independent, men who want to be better with their money, want to be better men. And they're looking to the future and they're being like, it doesn't matter anyways. None of it matters. Like, why save money? We're all going to blow up anyways. You're connecting yourself to a story, and you're connecting yourself to a bad story. But again, the story, the projection you're making is not real. But if you choose to make it real, you will create it. But you can also choose to not make it real. You can choose to focus on the positive. You can choose to be hopeful, to say in the future, I'm going to have all this money. I'm going to be doing all these things. You just can't manifest it into existence. You just can't say, oh, I want this. It's going to come to you. No, this is where I want to go. How do I reverse engineer to bring it to me today? Being hopeful is what's going to get you to where you want to be. If you want to live in negativity and think like, at the end of my life, I'm going to die drunk alone, you're probably going to be right, because you're going to create the reality to make you that person.
Yep, absolutely. That's why it's so important to focus on what you're telling yourself, the story you're telling yourself, because you can convince yourself of anything. I took this storytelling class in college specifically for the idea that I could convince myself of anything I wanted to be in life. And it was very interesting. Oftentimes though, I'll say this, we're looking for this one thing. It's like, oh man, once I take this class, unstoppable. Once I take this one thing, I'm unbeatable. Once I do this, I'm unstoppable. That's never the case. It's usually never the case. It's always a constant grind.
We all want the silver bullet in life, and the silver bullet does not exist. The secret of life is that there are no secrets.
Yeah, it's true. That is the truth right there.
Can I tell you one thing that another realization I had this week when it came to the story that you tell yourself? So I've talked to a lot about memento mori, the Stoic idea of this too shall end, and remembering that your life is finite. But not only your life, all life is finite. And I find myself in my modern day where I take things for granted. And I think we all do this. We become habituated to what is normal to us. I remember there was a time where I was working 50 hours a week, waking up at 4 a.m. so I could work out before I would go to work at 6, leave the house by 6, so I could get home by 6 p.m. And because I knew if I didn't wake up at 4, I wouldn't have time to work out. And I would always want it to be at the time that like I didn't have to work for money anymore, where I could be financially independent. And here I am. I'm at that time. And now it just seems normal to me. It's just like, whoa, I mean, why would I complain about this? Like, this is just normal. And now I find myself wanting more, striving for more. What more could I do? How much more money could I have? And I have to constantly remember this memento mori of this too shall end. So enjoy it while you're in this season, because I don't know in the future what might hold. I could have a brain tumor, or something could go wrong. My wife could lose her job. We could come out disabled, and all of this, everything that I built, could go away. Obviously, we've created a bunch of contingencies. That's part of financial planning in order to prevent those things from coming in. But it could still happen, and I could tell myself a story of if it's never going to happen, or I could tell myself the story that it will happen. Both of those inevitabilities could be true. So I'd rather try to focus on living for right now. But where I'm going with this is I also find that people will begin to also take for granted the people in their lives. And I was reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist Tibetan monk. And he was talking about this idea of attachment and not falling prey for taking people for granted in your life. And he gave this beautiful meditation that I want to talk about, where he said, think about someone that is important to you in your life. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your girlfriend, maybe it's your best friend. And now imagine hugging that person. Now I want you to imagine that person is dead. What would you give to hug that person? Close your eyes, imagine that they're dead. What would you give to hug them? Now open your eyes and realize that they're still here.
Powerful. An attitude of gratitude. That's what it's all about.
And I think as men, we need to remember that. We need to remember that this too shall end. And we always focus too much on getting to the destination, getting there. Eventually, I'll be happy when I get that. When I get this next promotion, I'll be happy. When I get married, I'll be happy. With whatever it is, I'll be happy. And that's just an illusion. Happiness is a choice that you can make right now if you choose to. And
Absolutely.
then once you make it right now, you go ahead and you choose to also work to make sure that that continues to sustain itself. Too many men are focused on the money, like having the quantifiable goods. I am this much better than you, Dominic, because I have this much more money than you.
Yeah.
And people will do that. And it's honestly, hate the analogy, everyone's comparing dicks. That's all it is. It's a dick comparison where everyone's saying mine's bigger than yours, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I don't care how big your dick is, how much money you have in your bank account. If at the end of the day you go home and your wife hates you, you have no relationship with your kids, and you're going to die alone. Don't trade the quantifiable metrics for the unquantifiable. Because yes, we can compare who has more money in our bank accounts. And for a lot of people out there, they're going to win. But I would rather focus on having a well-rounded life where I know how much money is enough, where I also know how to have a good relationship with my wife, with my kids, with my animals, with my community, with people that when I run into people on the streets from jiu-jitsu, from people that I meet, people say, thank you. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for teaching me jiu-jitsu. Thank you for all these things. That's so fucking cool. And it has nothing to do with money.
I gotta say, it is really cool. It's really cool. I love hearing that. I love hearing, and I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't think it's an ego thing. It's a little bit of an ego thing, a little bit. And at the same time, it's like, nice. We're creating a legacy. Like we're doing good. Not because we're metrics, this and that. It's like, no, we're doing good in the community. And I love it. I want to be a force for good. That's the mission. I love it.
So what do you think, Dominic? Should we start being Fi Guys and try to bring more people into the Fi Guy ethos? Or do you think we should focus more like we've been doing on the Fi family and focusing on men, women, children, everyone? Or do you think we should focus down into being Fi Guys and like we're going to work on men, because if we work on men, then men can work on their families, work on their communities, work on those things. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but that's the reason I wanted to pose that question to you.
The one thing I worry about when focusing just on men is that we're just focusing on the men, and we're niching down when we just like spent like this podcast and the last podcast talking about being a well-rounded individual, I think it's important to speak to our base, speak to the people we can relate to, but also it's important to reach those people who aren't represented as much, right? How many female podcasters are there on finance, right?
I have no idea. Yeah.
It's not as many as men. That's for sure. It's not even close, right? Are we a good representation of women? No, I wouldn't say so. Do we respect them? Do we love them? Oh, absolutely. Run into a burning building to save them, always. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough question. Part of me wants to play to the men, what we know. But I do know a lot of women that listen to the podcast, right?
I know. And it's tough. I mean, like just look at like last week's podcast. I brought Kate on and did a coaching call with her. And like, I love working with women because they're so much more in touch with their feelings. They're able to like see through the bullshit, through the truth. But then I wonder, like, are we serving them as well as we could be? Or could we serve males better? And I don't think it's a but. I don't think it should be just one or the other, because we could still be geared towards men, talking to men, and women still can listen and should listen in order to learn. Because if you can see how men's mind operates, then maybe women could be like, okay, I get it. I get where he sees. I understand what he's thinking. Because I can't tell you what my wife thinks about when I'm talking about money, but I can tell you what I think about. I can also tell you what I felt as a man when I was making less money than she was, and still do make less money than she does. I can tell you what that feels like as a man. I can tell you what I look for in a woman. I can't tell you what a female looks for in a man.
No, you can't. It's true.
So I say we think on it. We rest on it. We continue to play the game. Nothing's ever finite too. That's always the nice thing about the podcast, right? We could decide to niche down. I just look at our statistics and we're mostly getting men. Majority of our 5 Friday feedbacks is men. Majority of our comments is men. And I see a lot of really positive comments, but there's also a lot of negative comments, a lot of people being victims, a lot of people being villains. And I think if we focused on the men, the people that are, there are very, I think of like 3 comments where a woman has commented negative things.
Yeah.
Majority of it is always men. And I think, can we help them? I don't want anyone to suffer. I want to pull anyone that I possibly can. Someone who watches our podcast or listens to our podcast and feels that they have to leave a bad comment, I don't wish ill on that person at all. I want to help that person, because me wishing ill on you does nothing to serve anything. I'd rather pull you up and say, like, you can do this too. Yes, it's going to be hard. I don't promise anything, but I will promise you one thing, that you're going to have to put in the fucking work if you want it to come out. Actually, I won't make that promise, because there is a world where it could happen. Someone could die and leave you like $1 million. You could have a rich uncle somewhere that could leave you $1 million. But even if that did happen, your life wouldn't be what you think it's going to be. You wouldn't be happy all the time.
True. And I think with that being said, is it viewer mailbag time or is it viewer mailbag time? Let's do it. All righty, boys. You know what time it is. It's 5 Friday feedback viewer mailbag time. One of my favorite times of the week. For today's letter, let's get right into it. All righty. What do we got? I'm just imagining that. Did you ever watch Blue's Clues as a... Probably too old.
Of course I did.
Okay, cool. It's just like, we just found a letter. We just found a letter. Okay. I wonder who it's from. Alrighty. Okay, so this week's viewer mailbag is, can you explain to me why 401k loans are bad? Howdy, Fi guys. A few months ago, amidst the excitement of planning the most significant event of my life so far, my wedding. Congratulations.
Oh, congrats.
Very cool. I found myself in a bit of a financial bind. Alrighty. Weddings are expensive, and I wanted to make sure that everything was just perfect. Without much hesitation, I took out a $20,000 personal loan to cover the costs. I didn't think twice at the time. After all, people do it all the time, right?
Pause. No, people don't do it all the time. You're telling yourself a story. The one thing I worry about was, without hesitation, I took out $20,000 personal loan. So I have a feeling I know where this is going to go, but let's see.
As I navigated through the sea of wedding preparations, I kept hearing the same old financial advice that we've been drilled into. Never touch your 401k. It's like a mantra repeated over and over and over by every financial guru in the country. So I dismissed the idea of taking a 401k loan out without a second thought. I figured better safe than sorry, right?
Good. Okay.
Pause.
One thing I noticed at the beginning, they said, I navigated through this wedding thing. I did this stuff. Like, where's your partner in all of this?
Mm-hmm. It's true. That's true. It doesn't say if it's the guy or the girl, though. So
it's a guy. It's definitely a guy.
Statistically, it is an hombre.
Statistically, there is an 86% chance it's a guy. If they wrote into this podcast, it's a guy.
It's a guy.
And based off the I navigated, my wife would always say, we did these things. We did these things.
Interesting. I'm a we
as a
person.
Man would always say, I did this.
Nah. I always say we. I say we even when I'm just alone, I say we.
Because you're more feminine.
I mean, you remember the first meeting. Get out of here. You remember the first meeting I took with you, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept referencing we because like it's myself. I'm by myself, but I have a community. So to me, it's like I got a whole group of people. And you're like, who is we? Like, do you have a partner to do that? I'm like, no, it's just me in my community. And you were like thrown off by that. So I just remember that from our first meeting. Anyway, back to the viewer mailbag. But today, for some reason, I decided to take a closer look at what a 401k loan actually entails. Maybe it was the stress of paying off a personal loan of $20,000, or perhaps the curiosity that comes with wanting to understand every option fully. I highly recommend, looking into every option fully before you make a decision.
Yeah, that's thus far, this is one thing that I agree with. You should always do your own research.
Yes. And I want to preface that I am reading the letter. I'm not speaking as if this is truth. Just a forewarning. Either way, What I discovered left me baffled and, quite frankly, a little bit frustrated, understandably. In hindsight, my decision to take out $20,000 of personal loans for my upcoming wedding a few months back feels like a misguided choice. Today, I hope it was a nice wedding. Maybe it hasn't come up yet. I don't know. Anyway, today I decided to do what I should have done from the start. Educate myself about 401k loans. It's good that you're conscious. That's good. And what I found was a bit shocking. It seems completely illogical that it seems completely illogical that these are so often dismissed or discouraged.
Okay.
Alrighty, here we go. Here's the thing. When you compare the average growth of a 401k, typically around 10%, the average interest rate on a personal loan to the average interest rate on a personal loan, which is usually about 13%, the difference is glaring. Without even diving into the finer details, a 401k loan seems like it would almost always be a better option than a personal loan, right? And let's be real, personal loan rates can go much higher than 13%, while a 401k can dip as low as 3 or 4% per year in growth.
Okay, we have to pause. Okay. So I'm looking ahead, and it looks like he's going to make a bunch of points. So rather than you reading through the whole thing and then me trying to debunk everything, let's just take this point by point. So before we get into how wrong he is about the 10% average thingy, that doesn't make any sense. I first want to go and talk about this. In hindsight, my decision to take out $20,000 personal loan for my upcoming wedding may have been a misguided choice. So I thought that he was saying, maybe I shouldn't have taken money out for my wedding. But what he's actually saying is, I should have taken the money out for the wedding. The misguided choice was not doing it from the 401k. So first off, we have to figure out what's the fundamental question. The fundamental question he is asking is, should I move the 401k loan? But there's a deeper question, which is, should I have taken the money out for a wedding? And I'm going to argue, he's not even asking that question, because he has taken that as truth. So before we get into anything, your logic is already fundamentally flawed, because you're starting at the wrong place. You're asking the wrong question. The right question is, should I have taken out a personal loan for my wedding? There is a right and a wrong answer to that, and I'm not going to tell you which one it is. In general, it's typically not right to take out a personal loan for a wedding. I understand that a lot of people have to do it, but that does not mean that you had to do it. $20,000 loan is a $20,000 loan. That's $20,000 you have taken against your future. I'm sorry, Tom, you're going to say something.
No, I was going to say, is there a number that you would be accepted and okay with taking out a loan for a wedding?
Something that you can pay off in a month.
Okay.
If you're going to take off a loan, my goal is I don't try to spend money I don't have.
True.
If I can't afford it, I don't do it. When I paid for my own wedding, I paid for it on credit cards, yes, but it was money that I had. I used the credit cards to get the points to be able to go on the honeymoon. The only thing that I think it's The only thing that I think it's okay to spend or to take out a loan for is if you're buying something that you see as a future asset. So, for example, a house. In general, a house is not an asset; it's a liability. But no one's going to walk off of the street and buy a $500,000 home straight up. It's just impossible. The average home prices is $300,000 to $500,000, depending what part of the country you're in. No one just has that, so you have to take out a loan there. You do not have to take out a loan for your wedding. I understand that's what general people do, but in general, people also die young and eat crap and they don't work out. I don't want to be general. The worst thing I could be is average. So let's get back to this. The writer claims that because the average growth of a 401k is 10%, which is first off wrong, and on average, a personal loan is 13%, a 401k loan is almost always better. First off, I don't understand where you got the 10% annual from. What I'm assuming you're thinking is that the stock market on average has returned 10% when reinvesting your dividends. So you think that means that the stock market returns 10% per year every single year. 401ks vary. You could maybe have a stock market like an S&P 500 in your 401k option. You might not have that. You could have really shitty options. So first off, fundamentally flawed right there. That's completely wrong. There is no guarantee of 10%. In addition, the market could be volatile. It could go negative, but it could also go up 25%. And if your rate of inflation is wrong, then we're going to be completely messed up there because I don't even know where to start with this guy. He's like so off base. But the long-term impacts of withdrawing from a 401k has nothing to do with the growth that you're taking it out of. It has to do with the temporary or with the impact on the long term of taking money out of your account that is no longer compounding. You have a snowball that's growing for you. That's compound interest. Your money is growing more money. The moment you stop that snowball, it is no longer growing for you. And you're stopping that snowball, not for something to buy another asset, to buy something that's going to grow that snowball more in the future. You're buying it to purchase a liability, to purchase the wedding. I think you're just, I think honestly, this guy's narrowly focused on the interest rate, and he's not considering all the factors that the loan is going to do against him. Personal loan or 401k. I say we keep on moving on, though.
You're not going to like what I have to say next, but I'll continue.
Love it.
On top of that, 401k loans don't come with penalties or taxes. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm just going to continue. You get the exact amount you request, and you pay it back into your own account. Okay. It's that simple. If it's that simple, why are you writing into a finance podcast? Anyway, the more I think about it, the more absurd it seems to recommend anything other than a 401k loan in situations where you need cash.
Okay. So, yeah, that's a straw man argument. If you say that there's no penalties and there's no taxes, then it's a straightforward argument. Yes, that all sounds well and good, but there is nuance to every single conversation. So, what happens, Mr. Writer, if you were to leave your job? If you were to leave your job, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, the remaining balance to your 401k would be due immediately. How does making $20,000 payment to your 401k that you just took $20,000 out sound to you? Additionally, if you weren't able to pay it back, then you'd be subject to income tax and a 10% early withdrawal penalty, given that you're not 59 and a half, which if you're getting married, I'm assuming you're lower than 59 and a half.
Yeah.
You're overlooking the risk of being unable to repay the loan if your employment circumstances change. And this could also lead to like significant tax implications and penalties. Everyone hates taxes, which the traditional loan, which I'm also saying is not a good option. They're both not good options. The best option is not to take out the fucking loan. But since you're going to take out the loan regardless, there are no additional penalties for removing, with the exception of the interest, that's going to happen regardless. The interest is going to be there regardless if it's a 401k or it's a traditional loan. Some people will say, well, it's okay because when I do a 401k loan, I'm paying the interest back to myself. But what you're really losing there is you're losing the ability for your money to continue to compound. You're forgetting about the time value of money. Let's see what else he has to say.
Why on earth am I paying Wells Fargo 15% interest when I could be paying myself back at 10%?
Oh my God, I just talked about that. Okay.
There's no mathematical explanation that justifies this. Couldn't possibly. Makes me wonder why I didn't just take out the 401k loan in the first place and use it to pay off this wedding immediately.
I'm going to say it comes down to opportunity cost of borrowing. So while the interest might go back into your own account, you're exactly right there. The money used for the loan is not in the market earning its returns. The returns of your investment could be potentially higher than the interest that you pay back, especially on the long term, especially when we project this out 20, 30 years. Yes, you might be paying it back to yourself at 10%. 10% interest on, I don't know, $20,000 is $2,000. But what could it have done in the market had that $20,000 been in there? It could have been $2,000. It could have been $4,000, $6,000, $8,000. We have no idea. But what you're doing is you're still stopping that snowball from growing. And now we're having to make a bunch more things go right that you have no control over in order for you to make out ahead.
Bingo.
Another thing that we need to think about is double taxation, which he is not thinking of. So the loan repayment, including the interest, are made with after-tax dollars. So when you eventually withdraw the money from your retirement, you'll owe the taxes again, leading to a form of double taxation. Whenever you take a 401k loan, you have to pay that, you pay it back in after-tax dollars. So every check that you got has already been taxed. Eventually, when you withdraw your 401k, given that's not a Roth 401k, you're paying taxes on it again. So you're double taxing yourself. You're going through another tax cycle, which if your marginal tax rate on average is 15%. That's 15% on top of the interest rate you have to pay to yourself that you have to make in order to break even. What else does he have?
And here's another thing. Here we go. Lock in. And here's another thing. 401k loans don't affect your credit score. This is just another clear advantage they have over personal loans. So why isn't this talked about more?
So what they're saying is that because the 401k doesn't affect your credit score, it's a clear advantage?
I guess.
Is that what they're saying?
That's what they're saying. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
So short-term benefit, which that's true. Yeah. Everything he's saying thus far is true. And there's a counter argument. So short-term benefits versus long-term benefits. While you're 100% true, taking a 401k does not directly impact your credit score, I would argue that it ignores the long-term risks. So if you can't repay the loan due to job loss or other financial difficulties, which if you're taking a $20,000 loan, I'm assuming you have other financial difficulties, the consequences, which would be the taxes, the penalties, and the loss of retirement funds, can be far more detrimental than the temporary dip of your credit score in personal loans. Furthermore, personal loans, if managed responsibly, can actually help to improve your credit score by being able to show the credit bureaus that you have the ability to make on-time payments, therefore improving your credit history. A 401k does not improve your credit history. Yes, it does not hurt your credit history, but it also doesn't help.
That is true. I know a lot of people that argue that 401k loans are risky because if you lose your job, you'll end up having to pay back the remainder in full. We talked about this. But isn't that just a worst case scenario? And even if that does happen, couldn't I just take out a personal loan that I was going to get anyway? How does this make the personal loan better than the 401k loan? I think, now, correct me if I'm wrong. He's referring to the infinite banking strategy, correct? Am I off base? You get a loan, and then you get another loan to pay off that loan.
Infinite banking with life insurance. No, yeah. So he's
basically saying,
I'm just going to get a credit card. I'm going to run it up all the way. And then when I need to pay it, I'm going to get another credit card and I'm going to take that payment on there. It's like going to a bunch of payday loan places. I go to one corner. I take out $10,000. When that's due, I go to another payday loan place. I take out another $12,000 to pay that plus the interest. And I just keep this going. That's the idea.
That's the idea. That's the. I think
it works every time.
Was it Buffett who theorized that possibility, or was that I think of someone else?
It works 60% of the time, every time.
Might have been Jimmy Buffett. I don't know.
Either way. Okay. So the writer's arguing that why not just take out a 401k? Because if I lost my job, then I had the ability to just take out a personal loan. When you go in for a personal loan, they need collateral. They're looking to see what's your credit worthiness. Your job is the thing that gives you the ability to take out a personal loan. So tell me how this sounds to you. You lose your job because you're an idiot. And now it's much more difficult for you to get a personal loan to repay back the 401k loan that you took out. Therefore, destroying your income ability. And now you won't be able to take out the loan because you lost your job. In order for you to get another one, you have to get a new job. And now, since you can't repay the loan, you have to pay the additional taxes and the additional 10% penalty because you're not 59.5.
Not ideal.
You're basically relying on a personal loan to play as your emergency fund in life.
Yeah. That you may or may not even get.
If you lose your job, likely you won't.
Others say 401k loans are bad because you need to address the root cause of your debt. Sure, I get that borrowing money isn't a solution to a deeper financial issue, but
I'm just going to do it anyways.
But, send it, bro. Just send it. Yeah. But that criticism applies to all loans, not just 401k loans. It doesn't negate the crystal clear benefits of a 401k loan and what it offers if you're in a situation where you need to borrow money anyway. All right. Do you want me to read this last part?
Hold on. Give me a second. Okay. So basically what he's saying there is that he's arguing that I'm going to take the loan regardless. And if I'm going to take the loan regardless, then why shouldn't I take it from the 401k? And we've already talked about a bunch of reasons that you shouldn't borrow against the 401k. So yes, if you're going to do it either way, if you're going to take the 401k, you're going to take the personal loan. I've already told you the reasons why not take the 401k. If you lose your job, that you're not going to increase your credit score, that most importantly, you're stopping that compounding from happening. You're stopping your money, and that you're going to enact future costs that current you is not going to have to deal with, but future you is going to have to deal with those costs. In addition to all of those types of things, yes, a 401k loan might solve your immediate cash needs, but it does nothing to address the underlying financial habits and issues that we actually need to focus on. What we should actually be focused on, the real question is, why did you take out $20,000 for your wedding? If you couldn't afford the wedding that you wanted, then either you wait on the wedding or you downgrade the wedding to be had.
Or you ask your spouse to help pitch in, or you ask, traditionally, isn't it tradition that like the bride's parents pay for the wedding?
Yeah, but that's not happening as often anymore.
No.
I think for our day and generation, like we're not doing dowries anymore. Like that's just not a thing. I think in our day and generation, it's up to the couple to pay for their wedding, and that way they get to full control over it. If your parents are going to pay for the wedding, then it's your parents' wedding, and they get to tell you how things work. They get to tell you who's coming and all this stuff. But if it's your wedding, it's your wedding. And if you have to have a budget wedding, if you have to have it in your backyard, if you have to do whatever it is, that's okay. I would much rather have a nice wedding and be able to afford a down payment on a house, be able to afford being financially independent, rather than having one magical day that has now for the next however long it takes them to pay off this $20,000 has set me up. One day for potentially the rest of your life. It's not worth it to me.
I can't help but feel I was misled. Maybe it's time to rethink this whole financial rules thing we've been so conditioned on. From skip the loan with high rate pain, pay myself, and stay in the game.
I did agree with him on that we should rethink all financial rules, and we should definitely think for ourselves. 100% right there. But his 401k loan, it focuses on short-term benefits while overlooking long-term risks entirely. And the broader financial impacts of the choices that you're making today. While a 401k loan may have advantages in certain situations, they come with significant and severe requirements and careful consideration, because if you mess up on these requirements, they have a detrimental impact on your long-term financial well-being. What we really need to do is focus more on what's going on with your spending. Why do we not have an emergency fund? Why do we not have any investments? Why are we having to turn to a personal loan in order to do this kind of stuff? I understand weddings are expensive. I get it. Can we have delayed the wedding by another year to save up $20,000 or 2 years or whatever it is? Or if we don't want to do that, could we have lowered the wedding cost by $20,000 to be able to have the wedding that we still want? Maybe it's not going to be amazing. Maybe you're not going to ride on an elephant. Maybe you're not going to have the DJ that you wanted, but you're not also going to be $20,000 in debt. There's always a trade-off. And right now he is focusing on short-term gratification at the detriment of long-term gain. He loves himself so much right now that he's willing to say, fuck future me, that guy has to deal with that. And the hard part is, both people is still you.
Bingo. Any final thoughts on that one, Chris?
Nope, that was
that's it.
That definitely frustrated me.
That was a frustrating one. Well, we hope you have a beautiful wedding, at least. Very memorable wedding. Take lots of photos, videos. Best of luck. And I hope you adhere to what we talked about today. But
I hope you and your spouse get on the same financial page. So I hope you guys are communicating and talking. There's a lot of stuff that was wrong with this, but the whole I thing, I, there is no I in team. You and your spouse are going to be a team. You can't be me. It needs to be we.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With that being said, thank you for writing in. And we will be getting on to Win of the Week. Chris, what do you got for your Win of the Week?
My Win of the Week is my truck is at like 98,000 miles. So I took it in for its 100,000 mile service. Typically, I always just do my own services on the car. I change its oil, rotate the tires, do all that kind of stuff on my own. But every so often, I think it's important to take the vehicles or go to the professionals for when professionals are required. And for a while, my braking system has been like really shaky on the front end. And so I was like, oh, I know what the issue is. So I went and replaced the full front brakes, which are drum brakes, which are disc brakes. I went to the rears and I saw they were drums and I took it apart and I was like, oh, fuck this. And I put them back on because I don't deal with drum brakes.
It's really funny. Okay.
I don't know if you ever dealt with a drum brake, but if you take it apart, good luck putting it back together. Disc brakes, easy. So I did the disc brakes, I fixed them all, but it was still doing that shaking. So when I took it in for its 100,000 miles, I talked to the head mechanic and he was telling me, oh, the reason that you did that is because you didn't buy genuine parts. I bought the highest parts that I could buy, but they don't work with the vehicle that I have. And I didn't know that. So now I'm glad to say it cost money, but my vehicle is driving just like I did the day I drove it off the lot at 100,000 miles. I love my truck very dearly. And sometimes it is worth paying the extra money to have the professionals do it because they have knowledge that you just don't have. And I don't have the time or the dedication or
the interest.
I don't have the dedication, the interest to learning all the information that they have. So that's just a PSA on getting your vehicle. The normal services, like replacing the oil filters and switching the oil, do that on your own. But on the big services, on the stuff that you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to replace the timing belt, if you don't know how to do a full, if you don't know how to change the rear differentials, if you don't know what you're doing on that, pay somebody to do it rather than just going to YouTube. Because YouTube might save you some money, but on the long term, it's probably going to cost you a lot more.
Definitely. My win of the week is tomorrow. It's actually tomorrow. My win of the week is, don't hold it against me. But tomorrow, my win of the week is that I have some solar guys coming to the house, and I've been in talks with them, trying to figure out if there's an opportunity to put solar on the house. And, I don't want to spend a lot of money. I don't want to spend a lot of money. You know this. I know this. I don't want to spend a lot of money. My mom has solar. She likes it. Her bill's pretty low. I mean, she still has to pay for the solar every month, But she didn't get one of the things that I wanted her to get. Oh, I wanted her to get it. And that was the Tesla solar wall, or the Tesla power wall. I know why she didn't get it. Like an extra $12,000. I'm not going to get that now. What's cool about this program that I'm entertaining tomorrow is that the Tesla Powerwall is included with it, right? And they've just released a version 3 of it that makes your house basically off-grid electrically. The only way I would ever do the deal, is if it was at, near, or below my current price of electricity at its highest point, right? My electric bill, very cheap. It's not very cheap. It's cheap in regards to other people's electric bill, but I still don't like paying it. You know me. It's $150. So not bad. Yeah. Child's play. It's really cheap. But I know that there has been a rate increase with the electrical company. I think it's been about 20% over the last year. And obviously power is just going to keep going up like everything. So it would be nice to produce my own power and lock in just a regular cost. That way I know what it's going to be every month. I don't have to guess it. And if I get a electric car down the line, I can kind of charge my car for a lot cheaper. And I love the idea of not being so reliant on a national power grid. I like the idea of just being self-reliant. Because if you've been in Arizona in the heat and not had air conditioning, God bless you, because that sucks. That is not fun.
My AC went out 2 weeks ago, and it went out at nighttime, thankfully, and they came out the next day to fix it. But there was 12 hours of oh my God, if they can't fix it, we're done.
Dude, it's brutal.
we burn down the house and we leave.
We're booking a hotel, 100%. 100%. It's crazy how much we value those air conditioning. But that's my win of the week. I will update you if I end up going with it. If the deal works out. If it doesn't, that's all right. Is what it is, boys.
Might I say one thing about solar? Yes, it's true that you can kind of live somewhat off the grid, but you're still very much on the grid. So saying that you're off the grid is not right at all. The one thing that you do give up when you get solar, because you don't have the money to purchase solar. Most people don't. They're so expensive. So you're giving up the loan. And now you're taking on a loan to pay it off. And yes, I know a lot of people say oh, but it's okay because it pays itself back. All I would recommend doing is read the contract thoroughly. Every single one of them has a different contract. And most people don't know the legalese of how to read a contract. I barely do. But I can tell you a secret. Take that, scan that PDF, take all the text and put it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to give you the rundown on it. What things do you need to be aware of? What are the major bullet points? And what are the consequences in case the things don't work out the way that you want it to, according to the contract? So you don't have to be a lawyer. You can use ChatGPT. It's very, very helpful.
Good tip. Very good tip. With that being said, that's our win of the week. That's our podcast. And we hope you guys enjoyed that. Any final thoughts, Chris?
No, I mean, I'd say like, subscribe, leave a comment, and most importantly, if you enjoyed this, please tell a friend about the Five Guys. Bring someone along for this journey. It's so much more fun if you bring a friend. Remember the old Nigerian proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And the pursuit of financial independence, it is not a fast journey. It is going to be far. It is a lifelong pursuit. And it's always good to go on a lifelong pursuit with a friend.
Absolutely.
Or your spouse, to the person that wrote in. Tell your spouse.
Absolutely. With that being said, hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week ahead. We'll see you on Monday. Later, guys. Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.